Hola everybody and welcome to Mas Con Carmela. On behalf of Arizona Barrio Stories and Latino USA TV, we are happy to bring you these interviews and bring you a little bit closer to our community. Lots of different topics out there, especially in the arts for me, and that's what we're talking about today. We have a very special woman here from South Phoenix, and I met her in the Roosevelt School District a few years ago and was totally amazed with what she was doing with the community. She has a program called Southbound that we're going to learn a little bit more about. We're going to meet her and then we'll talk about Southbound. So welcome Venessa. This is Venessa Chavez. Welcome to the program. We want to talk a little bit about, where you're from, what you're doing, and your Southbound project. Where are you from?
Thank you. Well, first, thank you for having me.
Sure.
I'm from South Phoenix, 7th Street and Baseline, and just grew up in the most beautiful cul-de-sac full of children and just being outside running the streets.
Yeah, I remember that mostly. Well, we would run in the streets until it got dark, and then they would, my grandmother would whistle, and we had to go in.
Exactly.
How did you get attracted to the arts? Where was your first encounter? What made you go in that direction?
My mom, we spent a lot of time doing just like kind of more controlled activities, not a lot of video games and stuff like that. So if we weren't playing outside with all the neighborhood kids, we were inside doing stuff, and my mom would sit with us and have coloring contests. So it was me and my brothers, and we would sit there, and it was a competition, but every time it was a 3-way tie. And so, but that's when I noticed there was something a little bit different about the way that I was going about coloring. So my mom she really colors beautifully, and you think crayons, right? What a childlike art medium, but that's really where I got it started and what really inspired my soul to keep creating. I noticed how beautifully she colored and how she would take her time to outline really dark with the crayons and then color it in really gently and smooth, and it really just nurtured my artistic spirit to keep growing. So that's how I got started. Truly, that is one of my earliest memories of making art, being inspired by art, and just taking off from there. Yeah, and my mother, and it's a beautiful memory that I just keep right here, so close to me.
Okay, so how did you pursue it? Did you have it in grade school, high school?
Yeah, we had grade school art classes, special areas, and I went to the Roosevelt School District's school, so we did have art. I really got immersed in it when I attended Southbound High School and was in the arts magnet, visual arts magnet at Southbound High School. I took photography classes, and back then it was no digital. And this is like maybe 2000, the year 2000. So there was no, I remember when the first digital camera did come to school, but we did film photography, rolled our own film, processed our own film in the dark room, did all our prints in there. So that is really what I took 4 years of, and was in the arts magnet, advanced photography. I also did some drawing and painting and ceramics, but any art that I could try to experience and learn how to do, I really just gravitated towards that and sports, and it just really kept me wanting to do more. So after high school, I just kept with it. I always had sketchbooks, and just like any art, sometimes you put it down because you're distracted by life and other experiences, other worldly experiences, and but I've always gone back to it and never really put it down, but just gave myself some time to experience life and come back to it. So, and from there, it took off through college, and Arizona State University, I graduated with my teaching degree, and I just took as many studio classes as I possibly could at ASU and Phoenix College and Southbound Community College.
Okay.
And I'm still taking class right now. So.
Well, it's never ending. I think an artist myself as a musician, it's never ending.
Right.
But what you're doing is amazing. Like I had told the audience, I met you through Roosevelt School District at one time. I think we were producing the Dia de los Niños for Roosevelt, and it was a lot of fun. But that's where I met you.
Right.
And what really hit me is that you have this tremendous capacity to love as you're teaching. I think that's the best way that I can
Wow.
put it. I felt that from you. And I could tell by the kids running around in the school when they came up to talk to you how precious you were as a resource to them, which to me is extremely important. The arts, I think, communicate so many things, you know,
Thank you.
that we can't say with words. But tell me a little bit about that. You were with Roosevelt, and then you went out on your own?
Yeah, I started with Roosevelt School District as a paraprofessional, which is a teacher's assistant. I was about 19 years old. I really didn't ever plan to be a teacher. My plan was I attended NAU for business management, hotel restaurant business management. I had this completely different idea of what I thought I was going to be doing. But my mom works for Roosevelt School District as well, still currently, and she is a cafeteria manager. So her art is really cooking. She cooks beautifully and wonderfully. So she is a cafeteria manager at one of the schools. And so when I was kind of like lost, 18, 19, I decided to come home from NAU and figure out what I'm doing. My mom suggested, hey, they're hiring at the schools. Why don't you, while you're figuring out, you know, see about getting a job there? So that's how it happened. And I worked at a school called Amy Houston Academy, which is a school for students with special behavioral needs. So that's where I started when I was 19 years old. And I remember my first day. I'll share this with you because it's pretty funny, but I was kind of like lost, a deer in the headlights, because I didn't know. I thought I was going to be making copies and doing this and that, but my first day I was kind of like lost and didn't know what to do, what I was doing. So I'm trying to find my classroom that they told me to go to, the assistant principal, and somebody's like, hey, get in line, get in line, get in line. And I'm like, me? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, I'm not a student, I just got hired here, you know. And that just really like made me laugh now that I think about it, because that was my first day on the job, and it just really progressed, and I just really stood in my power eventually. But my first day I was really like a deer in headlights. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and working with that specific population, there's a lot of heightened emotions and a lot of self-awareness that you have to have. There's a lot of not taking things personally and letting it roll off your back. And I had a lot of training in doing that. And really what it set me up was, those were life skills. I was having life training on the job. So I'm really grateful for my time at Amy Houston. My mentor, Miss Henderson, she was the principal there at the time. She called me into her office and she said, you know, you're too talented. I used to do the bulletin boards. You're too talented to just stop here. You need to go back to school and figure out what you're doing.
Okay.
And so from there I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do or where my major was. So I said, you know what, I'm really good with the kids. I love working with them. And I'm really good at creating art. So I just sandwiched those two things together, and that's how I became an art teacher. I went back to school, got my degree, and then jumped right back into teaching art. So
you went from Roosevelt, though, to creating a program of your own. I want to talk about that real quick, because I want the audience to understand that these are free classes that she's doing in the community. And we'll make sure that we have your website and your contact information available. But talk to me about Southbound real quick.
Yeah, Southbound Art House is an idea that I started around 2020 during when we were having art classes at home. You know, the schools were on shutdown, and I realized that a lot of my students did not have art supplies at home, and I didn't have art supplies as a child at home either. Not like I had crayons and coloring books, but I realized that this was a need that needed to be addressed. So I started the nonprofit organization, and my first part of it was getting supplies donated and then handing them out to the kids that were in the community that were having school at home and attending art class via Zoom and not really having a whole lot of materials to work with. So that's how it got started, and then it developed as kids started going back to school. I said I want to keep this going, and I want to even further it and have different opportunities for them to learn art outside of the classroom but still in the community, and meet local artists that are from their community, that look like them, that sound like them. The representation really matters, because when you see a version of yourself, whether I'm looking at a child and see myself in that child, or the child seeing themselves in me, that's where we can really start making that connection. And sometimes that generational gap is really huge and we lose that connection. But I want to connect with the community as much as possible and know my neighbors and have opportunities for us to gather and create and express ourselves and learn from each other and tell our stories. That's what my whole purpose is with Southbound Art House, and that's how I came about doing it.
So you're offering classes though for kids and for adults, right? They're coming up in the fall. I want to make sure that people are aware of where to attend. Can you tell us real quick what your website address is? Just shout it out.
My website is southboundarthouse.com, and all of the information will be on there. You can also find us on Instagram at Southbound Art House. And you can find my personal artist page at VenessaChavezArt.com, and that's Venessa with an E-V-E.
All right. Venessa with an E.
My mom is creative.
Well, we wish you all the opportunities that are out there. I hope they're very successful for you. I know they will be. Thank you for being a leader and taking the time to work with our community. I read in your website that you're developing classes for the community by the community, which is you.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for doing that. And friends out there, please follow Southbound and Venessa Chavez to get more information on where you can take your kids for these free art classes. You have to sign up for them. There is a registration page. And mommies and daddies, you can take classes as well, all right? Anything from painting and drawing to ceramics, which is pretty phenomenal. We thank you for being here today, Venessa. We wish you the best, and we support you and celebrate you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Arizona Barrio Stories, Latino USA TV. On behalf of all of us here at Mas Con Carmela Show, we love you. We'll see you soon. And don't forget, in the words of Celia Cruz, azúcar. Oye, Carmen.